Welcome back, everybody. Chiefs Kingdom, elsewhere. If you are just finding us, welcome to Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Network. We have a great show for you today. We are going to go over what we might see as differences on the defensive side of the ball for the Kansas City Chiefs in 2021. We're going to give you our top 5 bubble roster guys on the offensive side of the ball, basically flipping what we did yesterday. And, unlike some people to go for a joyride that is pretty unique, we're just going to get on this one and get the train rolling. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
I say joyride like Winchester just kind of jumped in a plane and took it, but no, not the case. Not the case.
Yeah, dude, I would consider giving my left arm for that opportunity. That'd be so awesome.
Right? I don't know if they have a G suit for me. It'd be difficult, but
oh no, I'm sure they don't have one for me either, but that's not the point.
Well, somehow I missed it on Friday.
How real it had to be.
Right, okay, fair enough. Somehow on Friday, I missed the fact that James Winchester went up with the Blue Angels and Chiefs made a promo out of it. They do that fairly often. I think it was McCole Hardman last year and DeMarcus before that. And I like seeing that. It's something that ties in, I think, to the 4th of July, celebrating military service. And, they do that at training camp too. They have a special day or two that is dedicated to military service members. So I like seeing it. I'm a little jealous, but other than that, I think it's great.
I'm insanely jealous. That would be awesome to be able to do something like that.
I don't know if my only question is every time it happens, I'm just like, did you hold down your lunch?
Right.
They're never going to let that out, but hey, this year Camp is going to wrap up on August 18th with Military Appreciation Day. And that's the one practice that is right now here in the pre-camp schedule that is scheduled to start before 9:15 a.m. It's going to be an hour early at 8:15 a.m. on August 18th. You can be out there for that, and I think you guys will enjoy that. And I like that they do that every year. I wonder if it's going to change anything with the distance that we're expecting to see Camp have to contain, like the players away from the fans. But
right,
I don't know what that's going to do. I think military members are probably going to be in that group that are pre-screened for vaccination or whatever. So maybe it'll come off like it usually does.
Right. And that would be my guess as well. And you would imagine that most of the people in the military are getting vaccinated because that's probably a requirement of being active duty, I would imagine. So,
yeah.
I think it's I also enjoy it every single year. I think it's a great thing that Kansas City does it. And I know that a lot of people have said, different things about them having flyovers and such before games, but I really enjoy those too. So,
yeah, I do too. That's actually one of my favorite moments. My kids love that too. And it's funny because if you go to different stadiums around the country, there are different traditions, and I really like that one because you feel it. It's not just a spectacle to watch. For those of you that make the trip out to Denver, there's always the parachute team from the Army that does that. I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but that's interesting. But that's a watching. You don't get that feeling inside your chest from having that flyover, and I enjoy that.
Well, and I also enjoy them having the stadium-sized USA flag as well. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. One other date that I want to remind everybody of is August 8th, which is Family Fun Day this year. I know that's not its normal spot on a Sunday, but it should help. They're not going to practice that Saturday. That's why. So with this strange preseason schedule with only 3 games, just want to remind everybody of that. But when it comes down to camp, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what you can see, or if you are going to have to be farther set back, especially in the bleachers there on the eastern side of the fields.
And what are they going to do for all the fans that are together? I mean,
right.
How are you going to keep people separate?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, but I'm hoping that they allow a little bit more photography and a little bit more, binoculars and that kind of thing to kind of help see across the field to the other side.
Right.
Because
the bigger problem that you're going to run into is you just don't have that much space. Like you would think that there's still going to be thousands of people, especially considering how many people didn't go last year or couldn't go last year. You would think it's going to be as packed as it usually is, and it's usually pretty packed on a daily basis. So They just don't have enough or a lot of space to be able to spread it out very much.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. Like I want to say that I thought last time the camp was in St. Joe, obviously not last season. I thought it was like 8 or 8:30 practices. Everything is scheduled for the same time, 9:15 a.m. except for that last day. So as you guys get ready to make your plans for going up to training camp, we'll have more details when they have more details. But just keep in mind that it is a different time, and it's going to be kind of a different scenario out there, and it's not going to be normal, and that's fine. Nothing's normal this time of year. Everybody's kind of anxious to get going because there's a lot of action coming your way. And if you want to place action on sports, BetOnline.ag is the place to go. They are great. Their website is easy to get around, whether it's the baseball season or NBA or NHL, even some of the smaller sports that aren't necessarily everyday kind of things. You can get in there and get in on the action. It's your chance. So don't sit on the sidelines, get into that game and play for the new season. This season's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of wagering to be had. Head to the website, use your device, and you'll get a 50% welcome bonus on your deposit in betonline.ag. Your online sportsbook experts. Use that promo code Locked On and let them know that we helped get you there. It's one of those things, battles are battles, and I always associate like spot battles on the defensive side of the ball. It always seems like, the more finesse, the offensive side where they know what they're going, like it never rings as a battle to me. So I don't know if you're going to be on the bubble, the guys that we're going to talk about coming up later, like, I guess maybe you battle, but I think what we might see on the defensive side of the ball this year is hopefully a lot more battle. And I want to see what is on the defensive line in particular. One thing that I'm hoping that this change with Jaron Reed has brought is a lot more aggression with the front four. That's one change that I'm looking for. More slanting, more aggressive into the gap, using the front four as more of a weapon rather than a mainstay to protect the linebackers, which is something that I felt has been like that as almost a carryover from Sutton. Like, I want to see them stunt and attack with those front four.
And I hope that they do that. I think that they're going to have a front four that has the ability to do that and do that very well. The question is going to be, who are they going to be using that front four? Obviously, Reed is going to be one of them. Frank Clark's going to be one of them. Chris Jones is going to be one of them. Where is Chris Jones going to line up in that front four normally? That's the big question. You could see him play defensive end on rushing downs and on passing downs. I mean, he could be out there. Who knows? I still don't know what to make of all this. And it's going to be, we're going to have to wait till game number 1 to find out if he's going to play predominantly at defensive end or if it's going to be more of a 50-50 split or what it's going to be. And then, who's going to be that other guy? Is it going to be Deshaun Morton on passing downs? I would think that's going to be the case. Derek Nottie is going to be your run stuffing guy that comes in. And I think that all of those guys really give you the ability to use stunts and twists and get aggressive and try to take, the punishment to the offensive line, which is, I don't think, what Kansas City's been able to do the past couple of seasons.
Mm-hmm. I like that plan.
I know you do.
The aggression, I think, has to be upped all across it, though, because it's not just enough in the front four. And in particular, I want to see one thing, and I'm expecting this. I may be disappointed, but right now, just given the skill set of what they've drafted the last 2 years at the linebacker level in Willie Gay and now in Nick Bolton as well, I feel like that is drifting towards the trend that instead of using the DBs as often, I think they're going to blitz the linebackers more because I think both those guys have a knack for that instinctual feel of how to attack that. I think Willie's actually really good at it, and now he's got a season under his legs. I feel like that's going to be something that they can take advantage of and not have to put that wear and tear on Hitch, but send the young guys. And then you're still pressuring with 5, but you're not necessarily degrading your pass coverage or opening up even initial gaps that can be taken advantage of.
And I get where you're coming from, and that's possible. What I would argue is that they have some DBs that are really good at rushing the passer. So I still think you're going to see that from time to time. Maybe we're not going to see it as much. Maybe they will go to more of a linebacker type set. But you want to take advantage of your player's strengths, and I do think that there are some of the DBs on this roster that can really get after the passer, and I think that will help be able to send those guys at different times. So I'm very interested to see what they end up doing on the defensive side of the ball. The question I have is, what are they going to do with their corners this year? How are they going to change that up? Because they are in a completely different situation, in my opinion, than they were last year. Yes, they're just missing Breland, but Breland was such a big piece of the defense for so long. you would expect that they're going to have to make changes on the DB end. And how are they going to start using those guys? Snead, we know what he is, or we know what he was last year. I expect he's going to take a step forward, but what's that going to look like this year? What is Ward going to do in a year that's a contract year for him?
Mm-hmm.
And then the question is still Fenton and Baker and, Mike Hughes. What are you going to do with all three of those guys?
Yeah. I mean, and before the holiday last week, we saw Baker, was it an Instagram post or something where showed himself cutting, accelerating, like a full-on run. We know that he didn't get to do anything in OTA, so like maybe he can still practice before camp is out. I don't expect him to be available day one, but
right.
If he's able to practice during camp, that might change that rotation. And I think he's a guy that not only changes that rotation, but it changes what you're able to do. If you look at the stats from last year, it was the Patriots number 1, and I believe the Chiefs were number 3 in how often they ran cover 0. And that is taking a chance. I wonder if Baker doesn't allow them to sit back and play a little more one high and just stay in cover 1 because you have a little bit more competency with your man on man. And if you have to drop into, say, a 3 out of it, or you're trying to do that shift, I feel like Baker does a pretty good job of disguising one and changing out, probably more so than Ward does, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's possible. They're going to change the way they're going to do things. I do think that Spagnuolo is going to look at what he has, and he's going to figure out what he has and what he wants to do in that regard. And I think it could change this year, especially on the back end. I mean, what's Tyrann Mathieu going to do? How much is Daniel Sorensen going to be used? That's a big question mark going into this season. I mean, he's back for another season, but you have another linebacker to add into the mix. Is he going to play more, or is Sorensen going to be playing? Are they still going to go with a lot of 3 safety sets? How are they going to use Tyrann Mathieu when he's playing? Because they've used him all over the field. He's been a jack of all trades when it comes to that kind of stuff. So lots of questions on the DB usage and how they're going to use the safeties. And honestly, the thing that I'm most excited about, I know this isn't what we're talking about, but the thing I'm most excited about, Juan Thornhill. What is he going to do this year?
Absolutely.
He was coming back from injury last year for the better part of most of the season and finally started to look healthy towards the end. Now he should be fully healthy and fully recovered, although they haven't been giving him some time off, and you have to wonder what that really means. But, I mean, I'm really excited to see what he can do in this defense.
Yeah, I am as well. And, from my top 2 safeties from that class, he and Savage have kind of flipped. Juan was the better player as a rookie. And then with the injury, Savage kind of caught up to him, and I actually think surpassed him a little bit in terms of his output, at least statistically, last season. So now is he getting fully healthy? Like you noted, they gave him a little extra time off in OTAs. Is that indicative of something physical, or is it more about the mental side of getting him just that much more solid in making the reads to then make the calls? He did a lot of conversations with Steve Spagnuolo while they were practicing in these OTA sessions.
Yeah, and I definitely think that that's something to watch, and I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch this season and see how he progresses, because he's going to be next to one of the best safeties in the NFL, in my opinion, with Tyrann Mathieu, and I think he's learning from one of the best, and obviously Mathieu does things the right way. So I do think that he's in a great position moving forward. But one thing I do want to tell you about, let's just take a quick break on that talk. We will be back talking about the offense and the bubble guys here in just a moment. Built Bar, as I have said multiple times, and I will continue saying, is the best tasting protein bar out there. If you haven't tried them yet, you need to go get Built Bar. Did you know that Built Bar has 9 delicious flavors: coconut almond, cherry, raspberry, mint brownie, peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, and salted caramel? So there is something there for everybody. My favorites, honestly, coconut brownie chunk. The flavors that they have available right now, peanut butter brownie is very good. Cherry is very good. Mint brownie is very good. I like them all, honestly. So, there's something there for everyone. You need to go check it out if you haven't. You can get a mixed box where you get 2 of each of the 9 flavors. Not only are Built Bar flavors the best tasting, but they're healthy too. Most of the flavors have 17 grams of protein, only 130 calories, with 4 grams of sugar and 4 grams of net carbs. A couple of the flavors have 18 grams of protein, only 180 calories, and only 5 grams of sugar and 5 grams of net carbs. Order today and get that raspberry or mint brownie or peanut butter brownie or whatever you like. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off your first order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com.
Now I'm hungry.
Well, you've got your Built bars sitting there right for you. You can go right ahead and have one.
But if I eat them, I can't show them to anybody. So
That's true.
that makes it bad. So I'll power through. Let's get our top 5 roster bubble guys on the offensive side of the ball. There's a lot of battle here. There's a lot of talent on this roster, like we talked about yesterday. Is there one position that stands out to you that has like the guys that are not just in camp, but have a shot at making the roster they're right there on that edge?
There's so many wide receivers. I just don't even know where to start. Like, you could name 5 wide receivers that I think could be on the roster bubble, quite literally. So I think we ought to wrap them all into one and just call it one. And I will say, Antonio Callaway, Gehrig, Marcus Kemp, those are the guys, in my opinion, that are going to be on the roster bubble. The biggest ones, at least.
Okay. I'm going to give you Daurice Fountain.
Yep.
I know he got some good reps in OTAs. It's going to be, can you take a step forward in camp? He's got the body. He is explosive. He's got great leaping ability, but we all know that they don't throw jump balls that often. So it's going to come down to special teams ability, and he's done that so far. But what is he? He's getting up there in age to the point where
he's 25.
Second team. Yeah, I know, but like fulfilling out his rookie contract, right? Like, right. And he hasn't broke onto the field. He hasn't gotten a ton of targets. I think he's got 6 targets in his career.
Daurice Shepard's another one that they just brought in. So
yeah,
those are kind of the guys that I think are probably on the roster bubble. I think you could make an argument there are going to be a couple more that could be on the practice squad. You have to wonder what's going to happen with that. So definitely something to watch this year, though.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And we could count that as all 5 of the guys, but we'll just call that one for now. One that I've been getting a lot of questions about, and I don't know why there's so much interest in this particular one, given who's running this team, but the Shane Buechele questions from Chiefs Kingdom seem to be multiplying. And I got to tell you guys, I don't know that he's even on the bubble. I think he could see it from here, but I think Anthony Gordon's ahead of him to be the practice squad guy. And I think they're only going to take 2 into the season with Henne and Mahomes. So I think Shane Buechele might be on the bubble that burst, to tell you the truth.
And that's fair. I think that when it comes to QBs, they're only going to have 3 on the roster, and that's if you're counting the guy on the practice squad. So it's going to be questionable who they're going to have. And I honestly wonder if Matt Moore doesn't find a way back late in the offseason. Because I think that if they're going to allow players like that on the practice squad, I wouldn't imagine that Kansas City wouldn't take him back on the practice squad this year.
Yeah.
And you think you would have to think that he would love that, because it's pretty much a really easy paycheck for him to come back for a season.
Yeah, that does make it pretty simple. And you have the confidence in him just because you know that he's walked in off the street and performed before.
Right.
So,
but you have 2 rookies on the roster other than Chad Henne and Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, yeah, I can't see either of those guys really being what they want on the practice squad. But, I mean, one of them will be if they don't bring back Matt Moore and find somebody else that's more of a veteran.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, I'll pick another one, and this one's going to be, I sit here and I look at the running back position, and I have to wonder about, I think Jerick McKinnon makes the roster, but I'm really curious to see what his role is going to be.
I know he makes the roster, and I think his role is going to be a lot bigger than people think.
Well, and that's it. That I'm not going to disagree with you. I think he could. It's a question of whether or not he can stay healthy, because that was his big thing in San Francisco's. He came in and got injured and was never healthy. So, is he back to his normal self? If he is, then he makes the roster easily. But that's a big question mark to me, is looking at, his health and how he's able to play.
From what I saw or heard about people seeing at camp, he does look like he's explosive again, that he's gotten all the way back. You're right about the history, though. You can't rely on that. He's 29 years old. He's missed significant amounts of games. And so that's why I don't even think that he'll be the primary backup. I think that is still going to be Darrell Williams.
Agreed.
But I do think he will be there. And that puts both Darwin Thompson and I think Elijah McGuire as guys on the bubble. I think it comes down to that offensive line unit and how many they have to keep, whether they keep 4 tailbacks or not. I think Burton's going to do the fullback, and I think they may just go with 3 tailbacks.
It's possible. I do think that I do think it's likely, if McKinnon is all the way back and he stays healthy throughout camp, that he is on the roster. I just I want to see him actually in a preseason game and see the speed and see it for myself.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen that yet. So, that's the big question mark when it comes to him for me.
Yeah.
And the other one that I talked about yesterday that I want to throw out really quick, Nick Keiser. I have a hard time believing he's going to be on this roster, personally.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same position group I was going to go to next, too, so I'm with you. We all know, and I think you are as much in his corner as I am, everybody likes Jody Fortson. Everybody wants to see him go. This is what it comes down to. He's got to beat out Keiser for sure. I think he can probably do that based on assignment. But that's because Blake Bell is there, and if you're going to have a blocking style tight end, Blake Bell beats out Keiser pretty easily, in my opinion.
Right.
But the question becomes...
And there's no way that Fortson can beat Bell in that regard.
No. And so he's got to outperform him in the passing game.
Yep.
And this is where it comes down to, I think, for Jody. Could he be on the practice squad again? He certainly could. The eligibility rules will allow that. But if he's going to get it done, I think he's got to get it done now.
And I would agree with that. And I do think it's interesting. They keep listing him as wide receiver. And I know that the departments just don't talk, whatever. He's always in the tight end room. But it's very interesting that they keep listing him as a wide receiver if he's in the tight end room all the time. And I do think that they really like what they see, but they don't really have a spot for him right now. And I think that's probably going to work against him. And I think he will be a guy that's probably on the practice squad again this year.
Yeah, that could easily be the way that it works out. My last guy is going to be Yasser Durant. They gave him a lot of looks in 2020. I think they want to like him. But
this is the other position that you could go with like 5 different people.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to say it.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's why I wanted to talk about Yasser, because they seem to like him, but he's not one of the guys that is clearly penciled in to be even a backup. Like, we don't know, because Rankin took all those backup snaps at left tackle and then got released. So we don't know what that means. And that's why I'm just not sure where he's at. I think he could be right there, but I am pretty confident that he and Prince Tegawanagu are going to end up on the practice squad if they are not on the roster. And I don't think Prince has a chance at the roster, to tell you the truth.
Which is great, because I was wondering last year if he could be on the roster this year. Right.
But both of them have upside that I think is worth exploring to try to develop. And I think that's the way the staff will see it too.
Yeah. And, another guy, this guy to me is more of a, are they going to trade him type person? Andrew Wiley.
Yeah.
I just don't know. He can play multiple positions. He can play 4 positions on the offensive line. He just can't be a center. So there's a lot of versatility there. You don't want him at left tackle, but I think that they could play him at left tackle. They've played him at right tackle before. I would expect that he could flip. I think I've seen him there during preseason games a long time ago. So I wouldn't shock me when you start looking at versatility if he's on the roster, or it could be that they trade him, because I think there is value there. And this is one of those guys that, to me, is about an average starter, or maybe just a little below average starter, and could go in and go elsewhere and start immediately for somebody else.
Yeah, I mean,
because there just isn't talent like there has been in the past on the offensive line.
That's very true. Andrew Wiley could be a starter at a number of teams around the league, and maybe that's what makes his value that much more important. So I agree with you. He could be a trade candidate. We'll see how it plays out in terms of him getting snaps, but we'd like to know what you guys think. Who do you think is the key? Who makes it? Who's on the bubble? Who are the roster's spots, particularly, that you want to see get claimed, and who might be the odd man out? Might be a practice squatter. You never know. There's a lot of guys that will make this team as a practice squatter still with the group. So I'm looking forward to it. We appreciate all of your support. For those of you that are joining us on YouTube, you can watch us now, like, sub, and hit the bell notification. And those of you on podcast, as always, we are always going to be here. Nothing is changing on that front. So thank you. You can hit us in the iTunes reviews or at Locked On Chiefs on Twitter. We appreciate your time and watching us today and listening to us today. And we'll be back with you tomorrow.